So this next part is about networking, communication, and collaboration. So the next slide, please. Next slide, please. And the next slide. Thank you. So when I first came to the UN, I thought, well, okay, now how do I get involved and what do I do and how do I meet people, and et cetera. So I did learn that there is such a thing as a working group here at the United Nations. And as you can see on this slide, there are several different working groups attached to many, many different subjects and many areas of concern and, that maybe your congregations are already involved in. So I'm just going to ask you to take 1 minute or 2 minutes, just read them. I won't read them. And I'll just give you an idea of what I'm working on. I am participating in the mining working group, and that has 2 subcommittees, and I am co-chairing with Danielle, who is on this conversation this morning on the Amazon subcommittee. And we're primarily looking at Brazil and looking at some of the mining issues as well as deforestation issues in Brazil. That's our primary focus at this point. I'm also part of the working group to end homelessness, which on this conversation is Jim. He's a member of that, and his congregation that he represents has a lot to do with the initiating of this working group. And it's not only ending homelessness here in the United States, but this is a huge global issue that we need to be engaged in. Women, peace, and security. I haven't had a chance to be on this group yet, but this is one of the areas I'm concerned, especially with nuclear disarmament as well. And the Commission for the Status of Women, as you can see, is another large working group here in New York. And this is a very important group because it's fostering equality among women and trying to eliminate the inequalities that we experience as women. And then one that's not on here that I have made an application to, and that's on the working group for the Security Council. So the next, and the next slide, please. So, how to access what's happening at the UN. These are 2 really significant, important, how should I say, ways of getting information and also attending, especially now that the UN is now only virtual. So if you notice here, the UN Journal, if you haven't, can you click onto that link by any chance? Does that take us? Maybe it doesn't. Okay. So the UN Journal.
In a moment, but it'll take a second to get there.
Yeah, you might want to just keep pushing on, Dusty. We don't have all that much time.
I am hoping to do that, Beth. Thanks so much. So at the UN Journal, if all of you just write those 3 words down, UN Journal, that will help get you to what's happening each day. There's a schedule. And an alternative is the UN Web TV. And I am finished. Thank you so much. Next slide.
Okay, so I'm jumping in again here to talk about another important means of connection and communication among the members of civil society at the UN, which is, of course, email mailing lists. And as you can see here, there are a great number of them. This is, believe it or not, only a selection of what is available to us. However, I think these are really some highlights. In my experience, these are the lists that have been the most helpful. These are groups, most of them, you can see that whole left-hand column there, are the NGO committees and working groups that Dusty was just speaking about. And when you come back to these slides later, I've included links here. So if you're interested in any of these lists, you can easily access either an online form or the proper email address for the person to contact to be added to one of these lists. So as you can see, there are many issue areas covered by committees on the left-hand side. And then there are a number of groups on the right-hand side who are also facilitating collaboration and information sharing. Importantly, I'll point out that several of those listservs that one can join are actually organized by the United Nations system itself. A couple of the major ones are the UN e-subscription service, which actually allows you to pick and choose kind of which councils of the UN system you might want to receive messages and updates and announcements from. There's also UN civil society announcements and emails catered specifically to us as members of civil society. The NGO major group, which does a lot of very broad organizing on all issue areas across the NGO community. And OHCHR, which is the High Commissioner for Human Rights, also has civil society weekly updates that are useful, especially if you're looking to follow proceedings with the Human Rights Council in Geneva. That's a good way to stay connected to that.
Thank you. I'm going to share with you about the UN jargon. That is the particular way that the United Nations and its agencies communicates. You will see, like when you are reading something, you are going to find a lot of acronyms. Remember that when Beth was talking about that UNHQ, that is United Nations headquarters. So we are going to find a lot of them. Like, for example, we can move to the other slide. Can we switch to the other slide? Thank you. Because this is it's not too much time. For example, we are going. This is very common one that UN, that use it goes for United Nations. When we are going to see the acronym UNGA is the United Nations General Assembly, but it's a shorter way to talk about it. At the United Nations, sometimes we refer, it was mentioned earlier, the Blue Book. That is not an acronym, but it's also something very handy. We cannot click on that now, but you can click if you click on Blue Book or you put it on your browser, you are going to find out all the addresses and all the information about the permanent missions or the observer missions who are accredited by the United Nations. So it's a very helpful, useful tool to find out about the permanent missions. We are going to find out also that the acronyms, it doesn't refer only to places, physical places, like, but also documents, like the CEDAW, that is the, the CEDAW that we are, it goes like a document on the convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. We are going to find out this is in written materials, but also when somebody's giving a speech, they refer like CEDAW instead to say the whole name. So just to get adjusted to this kind of language that we are going to find out that we are attending meetings or conferences. We are going to find, like, for example, ILO, the International Labor Organization. That's a very, well, it's a very useful, very common agency that we refer in our meetings. And sometimes we are going to find out that the good news is that these new concepts or new terminology, we are going to find definitions in the glossaries. For example, if we click on, well, we cannot do it at this moment, but if we click on that, we are going to find out that different agencies, United Nations agencies, when we are on the websites and we click on the glossary, we are going to find out the very specific concepts of this agency. For example, the International Labor Organization, if we click on glossary, we are going to find out, for example, what is the meaning of labor, child labor? What is the meaning? So that's important that we know that we can find out the meaning of the different concepts that are very particular to each one of these agencies. So the point here is just to say that there is a new language at the United Nations that little by little we are going to start getting more adjusted, or it's going to become or is already part of our language or vocabulary. So just feel free when you find something, just Google it, and we are going to find the name or the definition. So I don't know if this is helpful, but it's just common that this is something that is part of our daily life when we are dealing with readings of documents or information from the United Nations. Thank you. Yeah, this there.
That's wonderful, Beatriz. Thank you so much. Language is so important. And just a quick note, the two primary languages used at the UN are English and what other language?
French, but it should be Spanish.
English
It's
and French. The
French.
working ones, no?
Please, Beatriz, tell us all the languages.
Oh, no, I just remember the working ones is English and French. And then the other ones is Chinese, Arabic. I forgot that English, French, Spanish, right? I don't know if I'm missing one.
Russian.
Oh, yes, the Russian, yes.
Very good. Any other questions before we move into our final presentation, which is to hear about the spiritual history of the UN from Annalie Heijes? Yes, Jane.
Yeah, this is about the major groups. I read Committee of Religious NGO. Is that different from, or can you say something or elaborate more about it? Is this something different from RUN? What is this? And my next, another question is about the mining working group. I read the notes of the last month's meeting, and I saw that East Asia is a new, how do you call that? Is it a new group? Something? Can you also say something more about that, please? Thank you.
Yes, just quickly, CRINGO, as we affectionately call it, the Committee of Religious NGOs, is not just Catholic organizations, it's organizations of all different faith traditions. And right now they've recently developed a subcommittee, a working group actually on climate, which is new for the work within the Committee of Religious NGOs. They also collaborate on other items. Jim, could you introduce yourself, please? Because we're hearing lots of background noise from you. Thank you. Thank you much. And then also, Jane, I don't know if your ears were burning, but I do believe that Sister Marvy mentioned your name as someone who she hoped would be interested in the mining working group in this new focus area in Asia. So the person to find out more information about that from would be Sister Marvy, who's the Maryknoll UN rep. And let's see,
Thank you.
anything else? I see a hand. Yes, Pat and Paul.
Yes. How does one get to join a working group?
Just come for the meeting and become a member. If you are interested, come for the meeting, become a member, see if you want to follow that focus group and just participate, then pay the dues.
And how do you find out about the meetings?
There are fixed days, we can send you the emails.
Okay.
Mhm.
I
Great,
would say
thanks.
that-
I'd appreciate, Teresa. Thank you.
Pat, watch your run, do a search in your emails to see what the run list is saying. And another thing would be to use this wonderful presentation that Teresa and Dusty and Beatriz just did to sign up for the mailing list for that particular working group. And then you'll be in the know, or go to their
Okay.
website. So
Good.
I'm aware we have 2 more presentations, one from Sister Annalie, and then also some wonderful wisdom from Sister Margaret O'Dwyer. So Paul, did you have your hand up? Oh, we still can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. What the mechanism or tools we use to bring issues or to for advocating and lobbying in the UN system? What mechanism we use for that, for advocacy and lobbying?
Yes, as many different mechanisms as we can. It used to be we could do in-person mission visits sometimes with them, well, not necessarily ambassadors, but their staff. Now we're learning about the power of social media. So I would say that is a brilliant question that we might want to tuck away for perhaps an educational topic at a run meeting, which we have addressed before, the best ways to do advocacy. We know research is important. We know building relationships is important. Does anyone else want to quickly jump in with an answer to that particular question? I'd say let's hang on to that one because that is going to take us all a lifetime to answer together.
Yeah.
So
I would just like to say, in addition to that, at the Commission on the Social Development, CSOC group, we're now going to begin to work with member states by actually taking a virtual tour visit with the member states. So we have developed some guidelines on how to do that. And so that is another way in which we can, even in this COVID time, advocate at the UN.
thank you, Dusty. What a brilliant model that will be. And you said that's CSOC-D, right? Commission on Social Development?
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you. Wonderful.
Even other groups are getting around to virtually engage member states. Like CSTEF and others are migration, they are working out.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, let's hear some wisdom now from Dominican Sister Annalie Hodges, and then we'll move on and wrap up to hearing from Margaret.